We're here to bring a new type of news show.
New insights, new styles, and new topics every day.
We are News Generation.
Bringing news just for you. It's Tuesday, July 8th here in Seoul. I'm Lee Soo-jin, and this is News Generation. Joining us today is Nana Seoul.
Good morning.
Good morning. And also Cheska's with us today.
Happy Tuesday!
Happy Tuesday.
Yay.
And both are here to speak on behalf of people in their 20s and 30s. So it's Tuesday, which means we're going to begin with our keyword news, where we look at a story that has been gaining traction over the past 24 hours. Today's keyword is Blackpink. So Blackpink launched their Deadline World Tour, their first group world tour in more than 2 years, on Saturday at Goyang Stadium in South Korea. This not only marks the first time a K-pop girl group has held a solo concert at Goyang Main Stadium, but they also set a new record for attracting the largest audience ever for a K-pop act at the venue, drawing a crowd of 78,000 over the 2 days. Blackpink opened the show with Kill This Love and performed fan favorites like Pink Venom and Playing With Fire, and fans were also treated to the hit songs from the members' solo careers. So Cheska, why do you think Blackpink's world tour is such a huge moment for K-pop fans globally? And now that summer's here, if you could attend any concert in the world, whose concert would you attend?
Any concert in the world?
Any concert in the world.
Then I'm definitely lining up to Queen Beyonce's
Beyonce!
Crazy in Love! but speaking of Blackpink, I'm very proud as Korean, and today my outfit is Blackpink to celebrate their first solo concert. But it's quite amazing because they've been doing so well individually, globally. They've been coming out with their solo albums, they're touring a lot. So the fact that they're all coming together must be a huge thing for fans like Blinks. So I'm more than excited that they're doing a solo concert, and I really hope they have a vibrant career ahead of them. Yeah.
As someone who's grown up listening to K-pop, I feel like it means a lot to see girl groups also filling up. It was a girl group that fill up this huge stadium.
Right.
And also, if I could attend any concert, I think I'd pick Taylor Swift. I'm a huge Swiftie, but I was really sad that she didn't make a stop in Korea.
I know.
So if I could,
Because we don't have bigger space to accommodate Taylor Swift's greatness.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The Swifties.
Yeah, I think it's a small reason, but I can't believe, that's why she didn't come. Yeah, what are your thoughts on this, Niall?
You know, for Blackpink, it's definitely a moment we've all been waiting for. This is their comeback as a group ever since they left YG all individually. And so we've been waiting for this moment, but they also actually gave us a sneak peek into their new release. And so that was a huge moment. And for me personally, I told you guys that I went to a G-Dragon concert this year, but next year, guys, Big Bang, it's their 20th anniversary, and I'm really hoping for their full return all together, and tickets will be crazy hard to get, but I am just hoping. I'm hoping.
So Blackpink's successful world tour highlights the rare longevity and influence a girl group can achieve in this fast-paced K-pop industry. So with these concerts showing their ability to captivate massive audiences, this will hopefully set a meaningful precedent for future generations of female artists. So that concludes our keyword news for this Tuesday. So as we head into the second day of the work week, we're diving into a topic that's especially relevant for music lovers. So let's take a look at the screen to learn more.
You might think of Italy or Austria when you think of classical music. But South Korea is also gaining global recognition for its rising influence in the classical music scene thanks to its world-class classical music stars. As these talented artists make headlines and capture international attention, more people, especially younger audiences, are getting into the genre. With tickets for classical performances now selling out quickly, it's clear that classical music is no longer reserved for older generations or elite circles. It's now striking a chord with a wider, younger audience.
So as we just saw in the video, Korea's classical music scene is gaining a lot of attention these days. So for today's main discussion, we're diving deeper into this growing trend. Niall, so do you personally enjoy classical music, and do you have a favorite composer or performer?
You know, to be completely honest, I'm not that into classical music, but I do like some pieces, some very specific songs that I like. Beethoven's Adagio Cantabile, it's a classical era. Bach's Air on G string from Baroque. Handel's Everybody Loves This Song, and it's so heart-wrenching. It's Lascia io pianga.
I'm swaying, yes.
Mia cruna sorte. Anyway, yes, we'll leave it up to the classical singers. But I tend to actually perform more contemporary styles. I like things closer to film scores, musicals, and composers like Gershwin, Ennio Morricone, Joe Hisaishi, and many, many legends out there, and so on.
I'm really glad you mentioned those artists because I agree. I feel like the definition of classical music is evolving. And also, I'm a huge fan of Spirited Away, Howl's Moving Castle. I feel like these are, and Cinema Paradiso. So these are all, I agree, like, part of classical music now. So what about you, Cheska?
So I got into classics by playing a little bit of piano and a little bit of flute because as Koreans, you know, the mothers taught us to play an instrument.
Me too.
I know.
Piano and flute.
Piano and flute is such a perfect combination. So I got into classics that way. But I also actually diversified a little bit and I really like the new age classics. If you ever heard of it, it's a very powerful, it's a very energetic genre. But coming back to the classics, I do love the classics. Beethoven's Concerto No. 5, Emperor. Sometimes I actually do play it when I get up in the morning because it gives me that sort of energy that makes me go like, I'm so ready to take on the world today and I'm all fully equipped. But coming to performers, it's quite apt for today's topic. I love piano performers. And recently I've come to listen to a lot of Korean piano players like Jo Sung-jin. And it's not even the music, it's the way they perform, their aura and their presence on the stage kind of took me over. So I'm definitely listening to a lot more of those, yeah.
Right, so I also played the flute before.
Oh,
But I started when I was in elementary school.
Yes.
But then with music, you kind of quickly realize this is not my
Yeah.
path. This is not.
I think all of us here have
it has to
realized
be a
that.
hobby. Like it's very much a hobby. But I do appreciate classical music as well. So I heard there was a recent classical performance that sold out in just 30 seconds. Niall, can you tell us more about this?
Right. I mean, we know for sure that K-pop concerts are so hard to book, but it actually wasn't a concert for a popular singer or idol. This was actually a performance by classical pianist Lee Myun-chan with the Paris Orchestra last June. And Lee Myun-chan is a pianist who won the Van Cliburn International Piano Competition in 2022 at the young age of 18, becoming the youngest winner in its history. Wow, look at that. His winning performance has surpassed 17 million views on YouTube, and he's known for his wild, powerful playing style. And there's also other concerts. Actually, Cheska mentioned Jo Sung-jin, and he's the first Korean to win the Chopin International Piano Competition. And his concerts are also famous for selling out within minutes. Cho is actually praised for his delicate and lyrical expression, so there's definitely a difference in style. And in the 10 years since his competition victory, he has continued to showcase a deeper, mature, broader musical world. And last year, he was even ranked the 5th busiest pianist in the world. This is a fun fact. Actually, in 2023, he was in 3rd place and highlighting his prominent global standing.
Hearing those clips and seeing those clips of those young artists performing, you can see why they're as popular as idols.
Right.
But I've also heard it's not just young performers making headlines these days. Veteran musicians are also getting renewed attention as well. Is this true, Cheska?
You're absolutely right, because there are rising artists, but we also have the classics in the classic world. So we're talking about Chung Myung-hoon. He is a pianist and a conductor, and recently he was actually appointed as the music director and conductor for La Scala, the Italy Opera House. Now, this is actually quite monumental and historical because he's the only second non-Western person to be appointed and the first Asian music director to be appointed at the Italy Opera House. And if you think about it, the classics has always been a Western legacy. So for a Korean person to be appointed in this very prestigious place and position, I think is amazing. And for a Korean to be the first Asian to hold that position, I think shows the prominence and the power that Chung Myung-hoon has. And also we have to talk about Jo Soo-mi. I think all of us grew listening to her perform, and even the magic flute, if you guys remember.
Yes,
I was a very young girl, and it still gives me chills when I just hear her perform. And she has been the legacy, the leader of K-classics, and she really took the stage when the Western world and the Western legacy wasn't really open to a lot of Asian pianists or performers or anyone in the classic world. And as a Korean woman, I think she put Korea on the stage for the classic world. I even heard that there's a music competition named after Jo. And I think last Thursday, was it? She met with President Lee Jae-myung to actually discuss how they can make Korea into a cultural powerhouse. So her influence is definitely stretching far and wide.
So you mentioned Jung Myung-won, and it's also interesting to hear how his sisters are also huge performers
You're absolutely
as well.
right.
So I
Thank
guess
you
it
for
runs
pointing
in the
that out.
family.
Yes.
It's like this runs in the family, and
Yeah.
I know who to blame for my his food skills. but,
I think we should blame the DNA. Yeah, it's not us. We tried our best. It just wasn't in the family. Yeah.
Exactly. So it's clear that interest in classical music is only set to grow from here. So to get a broader sense of this rising interest, we conducted a poll on the Arirang News YouTube channel asking our viewers which performers they would most like to see. And here are the answers we got. So Jo Soo-mi received the most votes, capturing 47% of the responses. She was followed by Jo Sung-jin with 24%, Im Yoon-chan with 16%, and Jung Myung with 13%. So it's clear that Jo Soo-mi is still very much popular.
She is a classic in the K-classic
She
world.
clearly is. So if you'd also like to take part in future polls and share your opinions, head over to the Arirang News YouTube channel and check out the polls in our community posts. And so to further explore the rising classical music trend, we'll be joined by an opera singer from one of South Korea's leading professional choirs who will share insights on the evolving classical music scene and what it's like to perform on the global stage. And that conversation is coming up right after the break, so stay tuned.
NewsGen wants to hear from you. Go to YouTube and search our channel Arirang News. Click Community and leave a comment down below. Make a new type of news with us.
Joining us today is Seyeon Kim, a baritone singer from the Incheon City Choral here in Korea. Hi, Seyeon. Thanks so much for connecting with us today.
Hello, can you hear me?
We can hear you very well.
Yeah, I can. Hello, my name is Seyeon Kim, a bass member of Incheon City Choral. Good to see you. How can I help you
Great to
today?
see you. Great to see you. So we'll start off with our first question. So what are your thoughts on the success of Korea's classical music scene? And in your opinion, what are its biggest strengths or areas of potential?
First of all, as a choir singer, I'm very proud of this phenomena, really. Just 15 years ago, Korean classical music was not well known to the world, but now Korean classical musicians are already respected as top-tier world class. You mentioned pianist Jo Sung-jin, Im Yoon-chan, and conductor Jung Myung-hoon. In my opinion, why Korean is good at classical music is our strong passion of education. Most Korean famous musicians started to learn music from their young age. Some of us start before 10 years old. And they enter to special art school. In there, they get hard training with famous masters. You cannot imagine how many times young students practice a lot in a day. Their competition is too hard because every student wants to be the best. I think this education system made several Korean great artists.
All right. Let me ask you the second question. What do you think is driving the growing interest in classical music amongst younger generation?
Oh, yes, right. Nowadays, more young generation are coming to concert hall for enjoying classic music. When we, Incheon City Choral, has a staging concert, we can easily check from the stage how many young people come here. When I was a young child, classical music was not a culture for young people. Boring, long time, and difficult to understand, you know. But now, the young generation doesn't seem to have that stereotype anymore. I think this change happened because of development of internet and social media. In the past, in order to enjoy classical music, people had to go to the concert hall. But now we can easily watch the classic performance through YouTube, even for free. So classical music become one of popular genre for young generation like pop music.
You know, as you mentioned, 15 years ago, Korean classic artists wasn't really on the map, and now it has definitely changed. In your experience, when you perform abroad, how are Korean classic artists received internationally? And secondly, how are the audience different internationally versus the Korean audience that you just talked about?
Thank you for this question.
Yeah.
I can say yes. My company, the Intercity Chorale, is often invited to perform in other countries because we, Intercity Chorale, is the best world top tier class choir. Every time we perform in other countries, we can check how much Korean classical music has gained respect around the world. Recently, we had a concert in Indonesia, Bandung city of Java Island. At that time, Indonesian audience gave us amazing reaction. For example, when we sang a song, Korean language songs, they followed our lyric. Apat, 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 like that. It was really amazing. We felt like K-pop star.
So before I let you go, one more question. So what do you think needs to happen for Korea's classical music scene to continue growing in the future?
In the future? Good question. Thank you for this question. Most of all, classic musicians need study support and interest from Korean society. Right now, the global classical market is fast growing in quality. And as I mentioned, Korean classical musician has a remarkable potential, and they have made great achievement in this area. And I'm sure this phenomena can help enhance our soft power of Korea globally. However, in order to sustain this positive phenomenon, Korean citizens and government should give interest and support to classical musicians. We need stages to perform our own music, not only concert hall, but also different kind of stages. That is how Korean classical music can continue to grow in the future. This is my answer.
I think it's really important to remember how important it is to continue supporting K-classic. So it'll continue, to spread, like you said, soft power. So thank you so much for sharing your insight and joining with us today.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we just heard from someone deeply involved in Korea's classical music scene about how the industry is evolving and what it takes for it to keep growing. So now with that in mind, how significant a role do you think legendary musicians and young artists have played in boosting public interest in this classical music?
I mean, clearly, even as Jessica mentioned earlier, people who probably don't even know much about classical music know 조수미, right? So thanks to the continued success of the great masters who went ahead of time, as well as the international competition wins by young artists, more people are becoming interested in experiencing these classical performances in person. Moreover, this trend really isn't just a passing fad. It's developing into a deeper appreciation and wanting to explore this new genre that they've maybe neglected in the past.
So like the artists that we talked about, like 조수미 and 정명, have long been ambassadors, and then these new artists like Jo Sung-jin are kind of re-energizing the scene, which is really interesting. So Cheska, can you give us a sense of how much interest in classical music has grown recently?
I think the figures can actually tell a great story. So the ticket sales for classics has gone up to about 100 billion won. That's about 72 million US dollars, I believe, and that is the highest we've had here in South Korea in the past 5 years. And if you look at the ticket sales, I mean, the numbers have been rising, but the demographics of people have surprisingly been, I think, the younger generation as well. And as we saw in our interview today, 15 years ago, classics was not a scene for young people. And Niall, you and I kind of talked about how we were traumatized as young people when our parents' generation used to blast classical music in the car and in the living room. So it was kind of a thing for our older generation. But nowadays, the new generation are really loving this classics. And I think it has to do with multiple factors, like like the live performance, the change in the music industry where everything is so fast-paced and electronic. But when you actually go to these concerts, when you see them perform live, there is something incredible that you just can't get when you just listen to a music through an earphone, a speaker, or even
It's an immersive experience.
It's completely immersive, and you see the history of this classic legacy just sprawled in front of you. And I think that's an experience that you just can't get anywhere else. Yeah.
So Niall, to wrap up our discussion, for those who want the experience, do you have any tips and recommendations how to get into classical music?
Well, first of all, go to concerts. But Arirang, here at Arirang, there's actually a program called Perform Arts Reload, which covers a wide range of performing arts, including classical music. So go check that out. But starting with the classical music compilation album is a great idea. It can help you discover different types of styles, what kinds of composers you enjoy the most. And then there's many different variations of who played it in this style, who played it in that style. So yeah, start from there, I think.
Right, so as Korea's classical music scene continues to flourish, it's clear that this timeless art form is reaching new audiences and inspiring a fresh generation of listeners. And it's an exciting time for the genre, and we also continue to look forward to seeing what other more improvements are made and what kind of talented artists continue to shape the future of classical music, both at home and abroad. So this brings us to the end of today's episode of News Generation, but News Gen will be back tomorrow at 10:30 a.m. Korea time. Big thanks to Niall.
No problem.
And Cheska.
Pleasure's always mine. Thank you.
For joining us today. And to all our viewers, thanks so much for watching and joining us today. And we hope you have the best day. We are
News Generation.